Harlem. March 17, 1952. 2:47 a.m. 6 bodies would be cold before sunrise. But at this exact moment, in a third-floor apartment on 145th Street, a man named Vinnie Calabrese was still breathing. Still counting money. Still believing he'd live to spend it. He shouldn't have been there. 3 hours earlier, he'd walked into Bumpy Johnson's territory with a proposition that looked like respect but smelled like gasoline. Vinnie represented a coalition, 6 mid-level operators who'd been chipping away at Bumpy's numbers racket for 8 months. They weren't stupid enough to go loud. They were patient. Surgical. They skimmed just enough to hurt, not enough to trigger war. Until tonight. Vinnie's meeting with Bumpy lasted 11 minutes. No raised voices. No threats. Bumpy sat in his usual chair at the Red Rooster's back room, hands folded, listening to every word. Vinnie laid it out clean, split the territory down Lenox Avenue, 50-50. Keep the peace. Everybody eats. Bumpy said nothing. Not a question. Not a counteroffer. Not even a dismissal. He just stood up, buttoned his coat, and walked out. Vinnie took that silence back to his partners like a trophy. He's thinking about it, Vinnie told them. Old man knows he can't fight 6 crews at once. By 1:30 a.m., all 6 leaders were celebrating. Different locations. Different bottles. Same mistake. Because Bumpy hadn't said nothing. He'd said everything. In the world they operated in, silence wasn't confusion. It wasn't weakness. It was verdict and sentence combined. Bumpy Johnson didn't need to explain why you were dead. He just needed to decide that you were. And by 2 a.m., 32 men were moving through Harlem like smoke. No cars idling in alleys. No walkie-talkies. No Hollywood nonsense. Just men who'd worked for Bumpy long enough to understand that when he stayed silent, you didn't ask questions. You put on dark clothes, checked your weapon, and moved. Vinnie Calabrese was target number 4. He sat in that third-floor apartment with $83,000 stacked on a card table, waiting for his girlfriend to finish packing. They were leaving town in 2 hours. Miami. New name. Clean start. He'd already bought the train tickets. He never heard the door. The lock didn't break. It turned. Someone had a key. Vinnie's hand went to his waistband, but it was already too late. 2 men were inside. No masks. They didn't need them. One held a revolver. The other held a photograph. The photograph showed Vinnie shaking hands with a precinct captain. 3rd week of February. Outside a diner on 7th Avenue. Vinnie's face went white. Bumpy knows, the man with the gun said quietly. And that's when Vinnie Calabrese understood 3 things at once. 1. Bumpy had known about the deal for weeks. 2. He'd let them celebrate just long enough to feel safe. 3. This was never about territory. This was about the photograph. Who gave Bumpy that picture? Rewind 8 hours. Marcus Footwork Green wasn't supposed to be part of any of this. He was a driver. 24 years old. Worked for Joey Giancana, one of the 6 crew leaders planning to carve up Bumpy's operation. Marcus drove Joey to meetings, picked up packages, kept his mouth shut. The job paid $60 a week, enough to cover his mother's medication and keep the lights on in their apartment on 139th. His mother had tuberculosis. The kind that required expensive drugs the city hospital wouldn't provide unless you could prove hardship, and even then, the waiting list stretched 6 months. Marcus didn't have 6 months. The doctor had been clear, without treatment, she had maybe 10 weeks. So when Joey Giancana offered him $200 to do one simple job, deliver an envelope to a cop, Marcus said yes. He didn't ask what was in the envelope. He should have. The cop was Detective William Crawford, a man who'd been on 7 different payrolls for the last 9 years. Crawford met Marcus outside that diner on 7th Avenue at 11 a.m. on February 19th. Marcus handed him the envelope. Crawford handed him $200 in small bills. The whole exchange took 90 seconds. Marcus walked away thinking about penicillin. About his mother sitting up in bed again. About buying her real oranges instead of the bruised ones from the discount bin. What he didn't see was the photographer across the street. What he didn't know was that Joey Giancana had been setting up this deal for 3 months, a protection arrangement with Crawford's precinct that would keep police off their backs when they made their move on Bumpy's numbers game. The envelope contained $5,000. First installment. And what Marcus absolutely didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Detective Crawford had been feeding information to Bumpy Johnson for 2 years. Crawford wasn't on 7 payrolls. He was on 8. By 3 p.m. that same day, Bumpy had the photograph on his desk. Marcus Green. Clear as daylight. Handing corruption money to a cop on Bumpy Street. But Bumpy didn't move. Not yet. He made calls. Quiet ones. Within 6 hours, he knew everything: Marcus's name, his mother's illness, his weekly salary, the fact that he'd never been in trouble before. He knew Marcus was a nobody. A desperate kid doing desperate things. Bumpy also knew that Joey Giancana had used Marcus specifically because he was disposable. If the deal went bad, Joey could claim the driver acted alone. Plausible deniability. That's what made Bumpy's next move so strange. He called Marcus directly. The phone rang in Marcus's apartment at 9:30 p.m. His mother was asleep. Marcus picked up, expecting Joey with instructions for tomorrow. Instead, he heard, "This is Ellsworth Johnson." Marcus's blood went cold. Everyone in Harlem knew that name. And everyone knew that when Bumpy Johnson called you personally, it was either an opportunity or an obituary. "You handed an envelope to a police detective 3 days ago," Bumpy said. His voice was calm. Almost gentle. "I need to know if you understand what you did." Marcus couldn't speak. "I'm not asking if you knew what was inside," Bumpy continued. "I'm asking if you understand that the people you work for just tried to burn down everything I built. And they used you to light the match." I didn't know." "I know you didn't. That's why you're still breathing." Silence. Then Bumpy said, "How much do you need for your mother's medicine?" Marcus's throat closed up. "What?" "The treatment." "How much?" $1,500. For the full course. "You'll have it tomorrow. Cash. No strings." Marcus couldn't process it. "Why?" "Because Joey Giancana thinks you're stupid," Bumpy said. "And I need you to prove him right one more time." That's when Bumpy explained what he needed. It was simple. Terrible. But simple. Marcus had to tell Joey that Detective Crawford wanted to meet all 6 crew leaders. Together. One final confirmation before the deal went live. Crawford would provide the location tomorrow night. Neutral ground. No weapons. Just a handshake and a toast. They'll believe you, Bumpy said. Because you're the innocent one. The driver who doesn't ask questions. And if I say no? Marcus whispered. Bumpy's voice didn't change. Then your mother dies in 8 weeks. And you die tonight. Marcus closed his eyes. There's a third option, Bumpy added. You take the $1,500 and run. Right now. Get your mother out of New York. I'll give you until sunrise. For 5 long seconds, Marcus considered it. Then he thought about Joey Giancana laughing at him. Using him. Treating him like a tool you throw away when it's dull. What do I tell Joey? Marcus asked. And that's how the trap was set. March 16th, 6:35 p.m. Marcus delivered the message exactly as Bumpy instructed. He found Joey Giancana at a card game in a warehouse on 132nd Street. Joey was winning, which meant he was in a good mood. Marcus waited until the hand finished, then leaned in close. Crawford wants to meet. All 6 of you. Tomorrow night. Joey's smile dimmed. Why all of us? He said it's the only way the deal stays clean. He needs to look every one of you in the eye. Needs to know you're all committed. No weak links. Joey studied Marcus for a long moment. Marcus kept his face blank. Scared, but blank. The way a driver should look when delivering a message he doesn't fully understand. Where? Joey asked. He'll send the location tomorrow afternoon. He said neutral ground. Somewhere public enough that nobody tries anything stupid. Joey nodded slowly. Then he grinned. That cop's careful. I like that. He pulled 2 20s from his stack and handed them to Marcus. Good work, kid. After tomorrow, you're getting a raise. Marcus pocketed the money and walked out. His hands didn't start shaking until he was 3 blocks away. By 9 p.m. that night, all 6 crew leaders knew about the meeting. Vinnie Calabrese. Joey Giancana. Raymond Clutch Foster. Tommy Ong. Dwayne Mitchell. Lawrence Big Law Perkins. They gathered in Raymond's social club to discuss it. 6 men who'd been coordinating for 8 months, united by one simple fact: Bumpy Johnson was getting old, and old men eventually fall. It's a trap, Big Law said immediately. He was the cautious one. 46 years old, with scar tissue where his left ear used to be. Crawford wouldn't risk meeting all of us at once. Too much exposure. It's not a trap if it's what we asked for, Joey countered. We told Crawford we needed protection across all 6 territories. He can't arrange that without knowing who's running what. Then why now? Big Law pressed. We've been negotiating for 3 weeks. Why does he suddenly need to see all of us tomorrow? Tommy Ong, the youngest of the 6, spoke up. Because Bumpy's asking questions. I heard he's been making calls. Checking who's been moving product in his zones. Crawford probably wants this locked down before Bumpy figures out how big this is. That logic landed. Raymond leaned back in his chair. What did Bumpy say when you pitched him the split? Vinnie shrugged. Nothing. He just walked out. Nothing? Big Law's eyes narrowed. Bumpy Johnson doesn't say nothing. Maybe he's finally smart enough to know when he's outnumbered, Joey said. But Big Law wasn't convinced. He stood up. I'm not going to this meeting. The room went quiet. You're scared of a handshake? Joey's voice had an edge now. I'm scared of being predictable, Big Law shot back. 6 of us in one room? That's not strategy. That's a gift. To who? Raymond asked. Bumpy doesn't even know about the meeting. You sure about that? Nobody answered. Big Law grabbed his coat. Do what you want. But I'm staying mobile tomorrow night. If this goes bad, at least one of us will be alive to rebuild. He walked out. The other 5 exchanged looks. He's paranoid, Joey said. He survived 20 years in this business, Vinnie replied quietly. But in the end, greed won. They'd spent 8 months building this coalition. 8 months slicing into Bumpy's empire one street corner at a time. They were so close to legitimizing it, to having police protection that would let them operate without looking over their shoulders. One handshake. One meeting. We go, Raymond decided. But we go smart. 2 cars. Staggered arrival. Weapons stay in the vehicles. If anything feels wrong, we scatter. Everyone nodded. March 17, 11:42 a.m. Marcus got the call from Detective Crawford. Not really Crawford, one of Bumpy's men doing a passable impression. The location, a private room at Morello's restaurant on 149th Street. 10 p.m. Marcus related to Joey by noon. By 2 p.m., the 5 remaining crew leaders had confirmed. Big Law sent word that he'd be at his girlfriend's place in the Bronx. If it goes well, call me. If it doesn't, I'll read about it in the papers. By 8 p.m., the machinery was in motion. Bumpy's people had already been inside Morello's for 6 hours. The owner, a man who owed Bumpy for killing the loan shark who'd been bleeding him dry, handed over his keys without question. The restaurant was closed for a private event. The private room in the back had one entrance. One exit. No windows. At 9:30 p.m., Marcus sat alone in his apartment. His mother was asleep in the next room. On the kitchen table sat an envelope containing $1,500 in cash. Delivered that morning. As promised. Marcus stared at the money for a long time, then he stared at the telephone. He could still call Joey. Warn him. Tell him it was a setup. But what would that cost? His mother's life? His own? Or maybe Joey already knew. Maybe he'd factored the risk and decided Marcus was expendable anyway. At 9:47 p.m., Marcus picked up the phone. He didn't call Joey. He called his cousin in Philadelphia and told him to expect 2 visitors in the next 72 hours. A woman with tuberculosis and her son. Then Marcus poured himself a drink and waited to see if he'd just murdered 5 men. Or if they'd already murdered themselves the moment they thought Bumpy Johnson's silence meant surrender. 10:04 p.m. Morello's restaurant. 4 of the 5 crew leaders arrived within 6 minutes of each other. Raymond Foster pulled up first, alone, scanning the street. Everything looked quiet. Normal. A closed restaurant on a Tuesday night. Nothing unusual. Joey Giancana and Vinnie Calabrese came together, parking half a block down. Tommyon arrived last, chain-smoking, visibly nervous. Dwayne Mitchell never showed. "Where's Dwayne?" Raymond asked as they gathered outside. Joey checked his watch. "Give him 5 minutes." They gave him 8. At 10:12, they went inside anyway. The main dining room was dark except for a single light in the back hallway. A man they didn't recognize, mid-50s, wearing a waiter's vest, gestured toward the private room. "Detective Crawford is waiting." The 4 of them exchanged glances. Raymond went first. The private room was lit by 2 overhead bulbs. A long table. 7 chairs. A bottle of whiskey and 5 glasses already poured. And sitting at the head of the table, alone, was Bumpy Johnson. Not Detective Crawford. "Bumpy." Joey's hand went to his waistband, but Bumpy raised one finger. "Before you do something that shortens your life considerably," Bumpy said calmly, "look behind you." They turned. The door was still open. But standing in the hallway were 4 men with shotguns. Not pointing them. Just holding them. Casually. The way you hold a newspaper. "Sit down," Bumpy said. It wasn't a request. Slowly, they Saturday. Bumpy poured himself a drink from the whiskey bottle. "Dwayne Mitchell isn't coming," he said. "He's currently drinking at Lenny's Tavern on 142nd, surrounded by 6 of my people. Alive. Unharmed. He'll stay that way as long as this conversation stays civil." "What conversation?" Raymond's voice was steady, but his hands weren't. Bumpy slid a manila folder across the table. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. The meeting with Detective Crawford. Money changing hands. Delivery schedules. Ledger pages showing 8 months of coordinated skimming from Bumpy's numbers operation. And one photograph that made Joey Giancana's face go pale. It showed Joey meeting with Anthony Rosselli, a capo in the Genovese family, 2 weeks ago. "That's the part one want to talk about," Bumpy said quietly. Tommyon looked confused. "What does Rosselli have to do with?" "Everything." Bumpy cut him off. This wasn't about splitting territory. It was never about splitting territory. He looked directly at Joey. "You sold them the whole operation. Didn't you?" The room went silent. Vinnie turned slowly to look at Joey. "What is he talking about?" Joey said nothing. Bumpy continued, his voice like gravel. "The 5 families have been trying to move into Harlem for a decade. I've kept them out. But Joey here figured out a smarter play. Organize a coalition. Weaken my infrastructure. Make it look like an internal collapse. Then sell the pieces to Rosselli at a discount." He tapped the photograph. "You are going to cut your partners out. Take the Genovese money and disappear. Miami, probably. Maybe Mexico." Vinnie stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "Joey. Tell me he's lying." Joey's jaw tightened. "Sit down, Vin. Tell me he's lying." I said sit down. But Vinnie didn't sit down. He pulled a snub-nosed revolver from his jacket. The men in the hallway raised their shotguns. Bumpy didn't move. "Vinnie. Think very carefully about what happens next." Vinnie's hand was shaking. The gun was pointed at Joey, not Bumpy. 8 months. I brought in my cousin. My brother-in-law. We lost 3 good men to Bumpy's crews, and you were selling us out the whole time? Joey finally looked at him. You think small, Vin. You always have. This was about securing a future. Real money. Not numbers, racket crumbs. We had a deal. We had a fantasy. Joey's voice turned cold. Bumpy was never going to let us win. You know that. I know that. The only way out was through the Italians. Raymond spoke up, his voice hollow. When were you going to tell us? After the police deal closed. I was going to offer you a cut. A small one. Enough to disappear quietly. Tommyon laughed bitterly. A cut? Jesus Christ. Bumpy let the moment breathe. Then he said, lower the gun, Vinnie. Vinnie didn't move. Lower it. Because I'm about to offer you something Joey never would. Slowly, Vinnie lowered the revolver. Bumpy leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. Joey leaves with me tonight. He's going to explain to Anthony Rosselli why the deal is off. Then he's going to leave New York and never come back. He looked at the other three. The rest of you go home. Your operation's shut down. Immediately. Anyone still skimming by Friday goes in the river. But if you walk away now, tonight, you live. That's it? Raymond asked carefully. That's it. What about Dwayne? Dwayne stays at the bar until you three are safely out of Manhattan. Then he goes home. Tommyon stared at the table. And Big Law? Bumpy's expression didn't change. Big Law made a smart choice tonight. He stayed away. He gets to keep breathing for that. Vinnie still had the gun in his hand, hanging at his side. Why are you letting us live? Bumpy stood up. Because Joey was right about one thing. You do think small. You're street operators. You're not soldiers. You're not killers. You're just men who got ambitious and stupid at the same time. He buttoned his coat. But mostly, I'm letting you live because Marcus Green asked me to. The name hit like a slap. Your driver? Vinnie's eyes went wide. What does he? He's the one who told me about this meeting, Bumpy said simply. He's also the one who begged me not to kill you. Said you had families. Kids. Said you were good men who made a bad bet. The weight of it settled over the room. So Marcus gets to save his mother. And you three get to live. But Joey? Bumpy looked at Joey Giancana, who was staring at the table, his face unreadable. Joey doesn't get saved. Two of Bumpy's men stepped into the room. Joey stood slowly. He didn't resist. He looked at Vinnie one last time. For what it's worth, Vin, I really was going to give you a cut. Vinnie's voice was barely a whisper. Go to hell. They took Joey out through the back. Bumpy paused at the door. You have 10 minutes to get out of this neighborhood. After that, my people stopped being polite. Then he was gone. Raymond, Vinnie, and Tommy sat in stunned silence. Finally, Tommy said, Marcus set this up? Vinnie shook his head slowly. No. Bumpy set this up. Marcus just gave him the opening. That kid saved our lives, Raymond muttered. That kid, Vinnie corrected, was smarter than all of us combined. They left through the front door. Outside, the street was empty. Their cars were still there. Untouched. They got in and drove away. Behind them, the lights in Morello's went dark. and 6 gang leaders had become 4. But the night wasn't over yet. 11:27 p.m. Joey Giancana sat in the back of a Cadillac, hands zip-tied in front of him, 2 of Bumpy's men on either side. They drove south on the West Side Highway, the Hudson River black and flat beyond the guardrail. Joey wasn't begging. Wasn't pleading. He'd been in this business long enough to know when the bill came due. "Where's Bumpy taking me?" he asked quietly. The man to his left, an enforcer named Simon who'd worked for Bumpy for 12 years, didn't look at him. "Pier 64. Rosselli's waiting." Joey's stomach dropped. "You're handing me to the Italians?" "Bumpy's handing you to the Italians." "There's a difference." "They'll kill me." "Probably." "Then why not just do it yourself?" Simon finally looked at him. "Because Bumpy doesn't want a war with the Genovese family. You tried to sell them Harlem without having it to sell. Now Rosselli needs to understand that you acted alone. That there's no deal. No opening. No weakness." Joey laughed, a hollow, desperate sound. "So I'm the message. You're the apology." The Cadillac pulled into a shipping yard. Pier 64 was industrial. Abandoned at this hour. Except for 3 cars parked in a half-circle near the water. Bumpy's Cadillac stopped 20 feet away. Anthony Rosselli stood near the edge of the pier, flanked by 4 men in dark coats. He was in his 50s, silver-haired, expensively dressed. The kind of man who looked like a banker until you saw his eyes. Bumpy got out first. Walked slowly toward Rosselli. The 2 men shook hands. "Ellsworth," Rosselli said. His voice was smooth. Almost friendly. "Anthony. I hear we had a miscommunication." "We did." Rosselli glanced toward the Cadillac where Joey Saturday. "That him?" "That's him. He told me you were stepping back. Retiring. Said Harlem was fracturing and we could broker a clean transition." Bumpy's face remained neutral. "Harlem isn't fracturing. And I'm not retiring." Rosselli studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled. "I believe you. But you understand I need to be sure. That's why I brought him to you." Rosselli nodded slowly. "What do you want me to do with him?" "Whatever you think sends the right message to your people. I don't want them thinking Harlem is available. Now or ever." "And the others?" "The coalition?" "Dissolved. 3 of them are leaving the business tonight. The 4th was never involved. The 5th didn't show up, which probably saved his life." Rosselli laughed softly. "You handled this fast." "I handle everything fast." There was a pause. Then Rosselli said, "We good, Ellsworth?" "We're good. No hard feelings about me listening to Joey's pitch. You did what any smart businessman would do. You listened. But now you know the truth." Rosselli extended his hand again. Bumpy shook it. "Get him out," Rosselli called to his men. They dragged Joey from the Cadillac. His legs barely worked. They threw him on the ground in front of Rosselli. Joey looked up at Bumpy. "You son of a bitch. You self-righteous son of a..." One of Rosselli's men kicked him in the ribs. Hard. Bumpy turned and walked back to his car without another word. As the Cadillac pulled away, Joey's screaming started. It didn't last long. 12:03 a.m. Marcus heard the knock on his door and knew immediately. He opened it. Bumpy stood there alone. No bodyguards. No weapons visible. "It's done," Bumpy said. Marcus nodded. He didn't ask for details. Didn't want them. "Your mother's medication will be delivered in the morning. Full course. Enough for 6 months. Thank you." Bumpy didn't move. "You understand what you did tonight?" Marcus swallowed. "I helped you kill 5 men. No. You helped me kill 1 man. And you saved 3. That's the part you need to remember. Joey was a traitor who would have gotten all of you killed eventually. The Italians don't share. They conquer. 6 months from now, you'd all be dead or working for scraps." Marcus looked down. "I still set him up. You made a choice. A hard one. The kind most men avoid their entire lives." Bumpy reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. He handed it to Marcus. Inside was $3,000. "What's this for?" Marcus asked. "Your mother's treatment is handled. This is for you. Philadelphia, Miami, Detroit, wherever you're going. New start. Clean slate. I don't want it. Take it anyway." Bumpy's voice was firm. "You don't owe me loyalty. You don't owe me gratitude. But you do owe yourself a chance to get out while you still can." Marcus stared at the money. "Why did you really let the others live?" Bumpy considered the question. "Because I'm 63 years old. I've killed a lot of men. Some deserved it. Some didn't. I'm not interested in adding more bodies unless I have to. That's it. That's it." Bumpy turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. Big Law, Lawrence Perkins, he's smart. Staying away tonight saved him. But he's also greedy. 6 months from now, maybe a year, he's going to test me again. He'll think I've forgotten. He'll think I've gone soft. What do you want me to do about it?" "Nothing. I'm just telling you so you know what kind of man survives in this business. It's not the tough ones. It's not the brave ones. It's the patient ones." Bumpy walked down the hallway and disappeared into the stairwell. Marcus closed the door. He looked at the $3,000. Then he looked at the medication envelope that would arrive in the morning. And he understood, really understood, that he'd been given something rare in Harlem, a way out. He started packing immediately. By 3 a.m., Marcus and his mother were on a train to Philadelphia. By 6 a.m., 5 families had gotten the message. By morning, Harlem knew. Bumpy Johnson's silence still meant death. But for the first time in years, it also meant mercy. March 18, 9:14 a.m. The bodies started surfacing in the news by mid-morning. Joey Giancana, found in a dumped car near the Gowanus Canal in Brooklyn. 2 bullets. Execution style. Dwayne Mitchell, discovered in his apartment on 127th Street. Single gunshot to the back of the head. He'd been allowed to go home from the bar, just like Bumpy promised. But he never made it through the night. Raymond Foster, Vinnie Calabrese, and Tommy On were nowhere to be found. Not dead. Just gone. Vanished like they never existed. By noon, the street was buzzing. At Junior's barber shop on Lenox Avenue, 3 old-timers debated what it meant. "Bumpy's sending a message," one said. "You come at him, you don't just die. You disappear." "Nah," another countered. "This is about the Italians." Joey was working with the Genovese family. Bumpy had to clean house before it turned into a war. The third barber, a man named Coleman who'd been cutting hair in Harlem for 30 years, shook his head. "Y'all missing it. This wasn't about territory. This was about respect. Those boys thought Bumpy was old. Thought they could carve up his empire while he watched. He showed them what old looks like." By 2 p.m., word reached Big Law in the Bronx. He was sitting in his girlfriend's kitchen when his lieutenant called. "Joey's dead. Dwayne's dead. The other 3 are in the wind." Big Law set down his coffee slowly. "And Bumpy?" "Having breakfast at the Red Rooster. Same as every Wednesday." Big Law closed his eyes. He'd stayed away from that meeting because he smelled a trap. But now he realized something worse. Bumpy had let him live on purpose. Not out of mercy. Out of calculation. Bumpy wanted someone left standing. Someone who'd spread the story. Someone who'd remind every young operator in Harlem what happened when you mistook silence for weakness. Big Law was the witness. He packed a bag that afternoon and left for Atlanta. He'd run operations from there. Quietly. Carefully. And he'd never set foot in Harlem again. March 19th, 11 a.m. Detective William Crawford sat across from Bumpy at a diner on 8th Avenue. "The precinct captain's asking questions," Crawford said quietly. Joey Giancana had friends. Not good friends, but enough that people want to know what happened. Bumpy sipped his coffee. Joey got involved with the wrong people. Made promises he couldn't keep. The Italians handled it. That the official story? That's the only story. Crawford nodded. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table. Inside was the original photograph, the one showing Marcus handing money to Crawford. "This gets destroyed," Crawford said. "Kid's clear. He was never part of this." Bumpy took the envelope. Agreed. He skipped town? Philadelphia. Him and his mother. He won't be back. Crawford studied Bumpy's face. "You let 3 of them walk. That's not like you." "I'm getting old, William. Can't kill everyone. You killed Dwayne. Why him and not the others?" Bumpy set down his cup. "Dwayne had a brother in the NYPD. Patrolman. Good kid. If I let Dwayne live, eventually he'd have talked. Told his brother details. Put the family in a position where they had to choose sides. So you did him a favor." "I did his brother a favor." Crawford leaned back. "What about the coalition's operation? The skimming? You taking that back over?" "Already done. My people hit every location last night. Took back the corners. Collected the debts. By Monday, it'll be like those 6 months never happened. Clean. Always." Crawford stood to leave, then hesitated. "Bumpy. Off the record, how did you know about the meeting? About Joey's deal with Rosselli?" Bumpy smiled faintly. "A scared kid made a phone call. That's all. Marcus. Marcus." Crawford shook his head. "Hell of a thing. Driver saves 4 lives and doesn't even know it." He knew, Bumpy corrected. That's why he made the call. March 21st, 7:30 p.m. At the Red Rooster, Bumpy sat in his usual spot. Same chair. Same table. Same glass of bourbon. A young man approached. Mid-20s. Nervous but trying not to show it. Mr. Johnson? Bumpy looked up. My name's Andre. I ran numbers for Dwayne Mitchell. I heard you might be looking for people. Bumpy studied him. What makes you think that? Dwayne's gone. Joey's gone. Half the crews are scattered. Someone's gotta fill the vacuum. And you think it should be you? Andre straightened. I know the routes. I know the corners. I can pull a team together in 2 days. Bumpy was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Why'd you work for Dwayne? Money. Same as anyone. Wrong answer. Andre blinked. Sir? If you worked for money, you'd still be working for whoever's paying the most. You're here because Dwayne's dead and you think I'm hiring. That means you don't have loyalty. You have convenience. I didn't mean. Go home, Andre. This business isn't for you. Mr. Johnson. Go home. While you still can. Andre stood there for another moment, then walked away. Bumpy sipped his bourbon. At the bar, a woman named Francine, who'd been serving drinks at the Red Rooster for 15 years, came over. You're turning away help now? Bumpy smiled slightly. I don't need help. I need the right help. That kid would have sold me out the first time someone offered him a better deal. How do you know? Because he didn't ask what happened to Dwayne. He just wanted to know if there was an opening. Francine refilled his glass. You ever think about actually retiring? Every day. But men like me don't retire. We just stop. Francine laughed sadly. That's the truth. Bumpy looked out at the street through the window. Harlem was alive tonight. Music pouring from doorways. Couples walking hand in hand. Street vendors closing up shop. It looked peaceful. But Bumpy knew better. Somewhere out there, another ambitious crew was planning. Another young operator was plotting. Another coalition was forming. It never stopped. The only question was how long you could stay ahead of it. April 2nd. 1:43 p.m. 2 weeks after the night 6 became 2, a letter arrived at the Red Rooster. No return address. Postmarked Philadelphia. Bumpy opened it alone in the back room. Inside was a single handwritten page. Mr. Johnson. My mother started treatment 4 days ago. The doctors say she's responding well. We found a small apartment in South Philly. Quiet street. Nobody knows us. I've been thinking about what you said. About choices. About the kind of man who survives. You were wrong about one thing. I didn't call you to save Vinnie or Raymond or Tommy. I called you because I was tired of being the man everyone used. The driver. The errand boy. The fool. Joey used me. You used me. The difference is you paid me for it. I don't know if that makes you better than him. But it makes you smarter. I won't be coming back to New York. But I want you to know something. When I heard Joey scream that night on the pier, yes, I heard it. I was parked 2 blocks away. You probably knew that. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Maybe that makes me like you. Maybe that makes me worse. Either way, thank you for my mother's life. And for teaching me that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's just the last thing a man hears before he stops being a problem. Marcus. Bumpy read the letter twice. Then he held it over the ashtray and lit it with his lighter. He watched the paper curl and blacken. Watched Marcus's words turn to ash. When it was gone, he poured himself a drink. Francine knocked on the door. Bumpy? Someone here to see you. Who? Says his name's Lawrence Perkins. Bumpy went still. Big Law. Walking back into Harlem. 2 weeks after running to Atlanta. Either the man had lost his mind, or he'd grown a spine. Send him in, Bumpy said quietly. Big Law entered. He looked older. Thinner. His eyes had the hollow look of someone who hadn't slept well in days. I'm not here to cause trouble, Big Law said immediately. Then why are you here? Big Law pulled an envelope from his jacket. Set it on the table. $43,000. Every dollar I made skimming from your operation. Every dollar. Bumpy didn't touch the envelope. You came back to pay me? I came back because I can't run forever. And I can't sleep knowing you're waiting for me to slip up. So this is a peace offering. This is me saying I was wrong. Saying I'm out. Completely out. I'm selling my bar in Atlanta. Moving to North Carolina. My sister's got a farm. I'm gonna help her run it. Bumpy leaned back. You really think I'm letting you walk out of here? Big Law met his eyes. I think you let 3 men walk 2 weeks ago. Men who were just as guilty as me. I think you killed the ones who were too stupid or too dangerous to leave alive. And I think you're smart enough to know I'm neither. You're also the one who didn't show up that night. That makes you dangerous in a different way. It makes me cautious. There's a difference. Silence. Then Bumpy picked up the envelope. Weighed it in his hand. 43,000? Every dollar. Bumpy opened a drawer and pulled out a ledger. Flipped through pages. Found what he was looking for. You skimmed 61,000. Big Law's face went white. I counted. You counted what you remembered. I counted what you took. Bumpy closed the ledger. You're 18,000 short. Big Law looked like he might collapse. I don't have it. I swear I don't. I know you don't. Bumpy slid the envelope back across the table. Keep it. What? Keep it. All of it. Big Law stared at him. I don't understand. You're the only one who had the sense to stay away. The only one who didn't walk into my trap. That's worth something. Bumpy stood up. Take your money. Go to North Carolina. Live quietly. Die old. Why? Because Marcus Green asked me not to kill anyone who didn't deserve it. And you don't deserve it. You're just a man who made a bet and lost. Big Law's hands were shaking. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just leave. And don't ever come back. Big Law grabbed the envelope. Turned toward the door. Then stopped. Bumpy? Yeah. That night. When Joey pitched you the split. Why didn't you just say no? Bumpy smiled faintly. Because words are cheap. Silence is expensive. And dead men can't negotiate. Big Law nodded slowly. Then he walked out. Bumpy listened to his footsteps fade down the hallway. Listened to the door close. He finished his drink. Outside, Harlem moved on. Indifferent. Relentless. And somewhere in Philadelphia, a young man was learning that survival wasn't about being the strongest. It was about knowing when to speak. And when to stay silent. Final frame. If you want to hear more stories about the men who built Harlem, the ones history forgot and the ones it couldn't ignore, hit that subscribe button. Because power doesn't announce itself. It just waits. And when it moves, you won't hear it coming. End.